excited to get out here and open up SEC play this week against a really good team. Beat a really good Cincinnati team on Saturday. So many weapons offensively. You just look at them with the quarterback and 245-pound quarterback and a 225-pound running back and a big physical offensive line. They got a 6'9" offensive tackle out there. They're large, obviously, and then they got weapons also. I mean, the tight end's a really good player. They got multiple backs. The receivers, both starting receivers I've been with. Matt Landers was with us at Georgia, and he's had a great career, transferred in there and is doing a nice job for him. Jaden Hazelwood, I was with Jaden at Oklahoma. He's doing a great job for him as well. So we've got a real challenge. And then, defensively, just it jumps off tape. The whole team, the effort they play with, the physicality they play with. But you watch them on defense, size up front, and Bumper Pool, the linebacker, just a fabulous player. Drew Sanders, I remember who's the other linebacker for him now that transferred in from Alabama. I can remember being at Georgia, and Drew was a freshman, I want to say, in high school, and we had him at camp in Georgia and knew that he was going to be an absolute freak once he graduated, and that's what he was. We recruited the heck out of him at Oklahoma and were crushed when we didn't get him at Oklahoma. Felt like he could be a guy that could play offense, defense, whatever he wanted at Oklahoma, and went to Alabama, and now he's at Arkansas, and then a really good secondary also. So will be a big challenge for us. Sam Pittman has done an amazing job there, elevating that program since he came in. Ton of respect for Sam. Even before we coached together at Georgia, always knew or heard the name Sam Pittman going back to when I was here at Carolina, and we were recruiting Robert Quinn from Fort Dorchester, and we lost him to North Carolina, and the guy recruiting him was Sam Pittman. I remember thinking, how in the heck did the offensive line coach at North Carolina just get Robert Quinn to come to Chapel Hill? And he did. So knew of him then, and then got the opportunity to work with him at Georgia, learned so much from him. He was a huge help to me in my career when I got hired at Georgia by Kirby. I had never coached tight ends before in my life. I had coached defense here and coached running backs at Virginia Tech. So I was the special teams coordinator at Georgia, but I was also the tight ends coach. And I was I was definitely a rookie there because I never coached tight ends. And Sam helped me so much, just being the offensive line coach. The offensive line coach and the tight end coach worked very closely together, and he was very patient and taught me a lot about offensive line play and tight end play, and learned a lot from him. Got a ton of respect for him. We lived in the same neighborhood in Athens, and he's a good friend and someone that I always pull for. So happy for his success, and he's got a really good team that plays really hard and has taken on his personality. It'll be a big challenge for us Saturday. We know it's going to be a great atmosphere as well. I haven't been there in a while, but I've been there a bunch early on in my career, either at Mississippi State. Well, Mississippi State, we played them in Little Rock, but going back when I was here at Carolina, and then I was thinking about it earlier, the first time I ever went out there was I was a GA at Tennessee in 2001, and that was the Saturday before the tragedy of 9/11. A few days later, that was the last game I was a part of before 9/11. We went out there on a Saturday night at Tennessee and won. I think we had a weather delay, and then 9/11 happened a few days later. So been a long time. I know they've made a bunch of improvements and enhancements to that stadium, and excited to get out there. We've got to have a great week of practice and give ourselves the opportunity to go out there and play well. Got off to a good start this morning. Then real quick, injury-wise, no real updates. Christian Beal-Smith practiced this morning. Expect him to go. Corey Rucker, I'd say, is very doubtful again this week. And then Ja'Kai Moore and R.J. Roderick, both, I would say are questionable for this week as well. We're waiting to get some results back on R.J. He's okay. Just waiting to see kind of his pain tolerance as we go forward. But, optimistic we'll see both those guys. But they need to have a good day of practice tomorrow, and then we'll see what happens Saturday. So, Dave, what you got? Don't even have to ask anymore or say questions. Just go to Dave.
Shane, a couple. With Sherrod Green, is he okay?
Sherrod Green?
Yeah.
Yes, he's fine.
Okay. And then when it comes to special teams coaching at practice every day,
yeah,
how much do you put your nose in there like during the daily drills, and how much do you leave to Pete?
I'd say I put my nose in everything, and that's not trying to micromanage Pete. It's just what I've always done. But I would say, excuse me, with everything, David, defense, offense, special teams, I try not to micromanage out there, but I want to be involved in everything. I don't ever want to be one of those guys that's just on the defensive field or just on the offensive field. I try and bounce around. I try and, during the week, go to different meetings. I was in the DB meeting this morning and the offensive meeting, in the linebacker meetings, just bounce around. But as far as that goes on the field, Pete and Stanton, they work hard and put together a plan. And then every afternoon, so Monday afternoon, Tuesday afternoon, Wednesday afternoon, I sit down with them. I mean, I watch everything on my own, and they watch everything on their own. And then we get together in the afternoons and kind of share thoughts. And a lot of times we're thinking the same thing. And so before we go out there on the practice field, I know exactly what we're doing. We've discussed it. Then we meet individually. Then we have a staff meeting each day. And then after the staff meeting, Pete has the coaches on our staff. Every coach is involved on special teams except for really Sat and Clayton. Every coach is involved. So we meet as a special teams staff every afternoon after the main staff meeting. And then when we get out there on the practice field, every coach is coaching their individual positions, responsibilities, and then I, try and bounce around and let those guys coach, let the guys play, but I'm certainly involved. But it's Pete's, show. I mean, obviously, offense, defense, special teams, I'm the head coach and oversee everything, but I've hired 3 really good coordinators and a great coaching staff, and I let those guys coach.
If Christian is able to go this week, just how vital will that be for this running game to have a guy that's just played a lot of ball, seen a lot of stuff?
Yeah, for sure. Just his experience, his size that he brings. He's a downhill runner that's produced at Wake Forest and then had a lot of really big games. So we certainly could use his maturity and his experience. But, if not, we got tons of confidence in Marshawn, obviously. We got tons of confidence in Juju, tons of confidence. And, Jaheim Bell carried the ball some last week as well. So we'll have, we'll be ready to go, whatever, but getting CBS back would be, awesome. Just added depth. He's a great special teams player as well, and then just the maturity he brings to that room.
You were talking during camp about trying to simulate road situations, moving practices, periods around, music, different things like that. How does that kind of translate into an actual road trip and getting ready for, especially an 11 a.m. kickoff out there?
Yeah. We try and do, I think if you all of a sudden just wait till this week to start doing stuff, it's probably too late. You mentioned it. I mean, a lot of the things that we've done since January has been trying to prepare us to perform better on the road and play well on the road. And we'll certainly do some things this week also. We practice in the morning, so 11 a.m. is right up our alley because, we're in the building every day before that, and we're 11 a.m. is 11 a.m. Central Time is 12 Eastern. So, we're basically done with practice every day by the time kickoff will be on Saturday. So, there's positives and something, and I don't want to say negatives, but there's positives and some things that aren't positive about practicing in the mornings. But this is certainly a positive that we go in the mornings. And, our last early kickoff was against North Carolina last year, and we played pretty dang good in that game. So just kind of building on that and looking at things to maybe do differently throughout the week and on the trip. But at the end of the day, whether you're home, away, 11 a.m., 11 p.m., full stadium, empty stadium, it doesn't matter. We talk about it. It's about us, and we control what happens, and we do that by preparing the right way, having a great practice today, and then coming back tomorrow and doing it again, and then putting the pieces or putting the steps in place to then allow you to go perform well on Saturday.
Hey Shane, we've been hearing for years now that the most improvement is between game 1 and game 2. Over the course of your career, is that really true? and also, when you look at first game mistakes, are they mainly mental or physical?
As far as the week 1 to week 2, I'd say I don't know if it's always accurate because we've won some week 1s and lost some week 2s, but I do think it is the improvement that you're able to make because you finally play a game. You really know what you need to correct, and maybe we thought we were this was going to be something we were good at or whatnot, and maybe it's not quite what we thought, or thought this guy would maybe handle this better and he didn't. So you have a better idea about yourself. So I think you're better prepared going into week 2 than you are week 1. You have a better understanding of how we do things. You know, you try and prepare the guys for what the hotel's like and what the game day routine is like, but you don't actually do it for real until game day. So now this week will be not the first time we've done it, first time we've done it on a road. So you just have a better understanding from that standpoint, week 1 to week 2, and we will be better than what we were last week, but we won't be as good as we hope to be. I mean, we're constantly improving on this 12 guaranteed game opportunity, and this is the next step. And then as far as the mental and physical, I'd say a little bit of both, Rick. I mean, there were some just offensively and defensively, there were some mental mistakes the other night. You know, one of Georgia State's long runs that popped out of there was a mental error on the defense. We had a miscommunication on calls. One guy thought one thing, one guy thought another thing. We were playing a couple different things, and a run spit out of there for an explosive run in the fourth quarter. That's mental. You know, we lost contain on the quarterback one time because, you know, an edge player for us rushed, and instead of keeping his outside arm free, kind of lost his outside arm, and the quarterback scooted out of there. To me, that's physical. Offensively, we got quarterback got pressure one time because they brought the corner and we didn't block it like we were supposed to, and we got an unblocked player back there. That's mental. We had an issue where, you know, somebody got beat at wide receiver tight end out in space on the perimeter blocking. That's physical, you know. So both, to answer your question. And we've got to coach better and play better this week. There's no doubt about it, in all 3 phases. Because as good as special teams were, there's a lot to clean up on special teams as well.
Hey, Coach. You talked about Marshawn's impact with CBS being out. You know, you guys go to him for both those offensive touchdowns on Saturday. You know, why is he kind of the go-to guy in those clutch moments for this offense right now?
I think he, one, knows what to do and can execute and whatnot. And then I think a lot of that, Emily, is just he happened to be in there at the right time too. You know, I mean, he if it had been Juju or somebody out wide on that touchdown pass, he would have gotten the ball thrown to him because, you know, go back to mental, physical. I'm assuming Georgia State wanted somebody to buzz out to the flat to handle that and didn't. And Spencer found him, and then Marshawn's a guy, having said that can, when the ball's in his hands, good things happen, and he can make people miss. We hit the 3rd and 16 for like a 15-yard gain right before the half. We went tempo. We actually went for it on 4th and 1, and, you know, would love to keep that thing a little bit north-south, but he bounced it outside and broke 3 tackles. You know, that's a great individual effort. But Marshawn's a guy that we have a lot of confidence in because he's a weapon with the ball in his hands. But I could also say that about some of the other running backs and some of the receivers and tight ends as well. So we want to have multiple go-to guys, if you will, in those moments.
A couple of things on linebackers. What kind of personality is Mo Kaba? He had the tweet over the summer about mowing lawns and not getting NIL deals. But how does his personality benefit him in the position group? And then also on Sherrod, he's had some significant injuries. I know you said he's fine, but have those injuries in the past slowed him down a little bit to where he isn't really the same player as he was prior to the hip and the knee?
As far as Mo, he's a great personality. He's fun to be around. The thing I've seen with Mo is just his maturity, the way that it's grown in just a year and a half or whatever that I've been here. He really works. He really studies. You know, I'll be in those linebacker meetings with Coach White, and he's right near Coach White, sitting in the front row, and he's very locked into what he's doing, and that's a very old. I don't want to say old soul, but there's some young guys in that linebacker room, but it's some mature older guys, you know, Brad and Sherrod and Mo and Debo. He's only his 2nd year in the program, but he's a very mature, you know, guy for a young guy. I mean, we laugh. We always go from special teams meetings each morning. Then we go from the special teams meeting to position meetings, offense, defense, and everybody goes straight to the meetings except the linebackers. And it's like 7 linebackers are in the kitchen back there in line to get a cup of coffee before they go into the linebacker meeting room. Like, no other position does that, but it's literally Sherrod's getting his cup of coffee, Brad's getting his cup of coffee. They're all in there getting their coffee like they're going to work in there. Donovan Westmoreland goes in there and I'll put like 7 sugars in there and stuff. I mean, it's insane, but that's just kind of that linebacker group. It's a very mature group, and Mo's leadership and Sherrod's leadership and Brad's leadership, I think, have allowed guys like Debo and guys like Stone Blanton to come in there as a true freshman the other night and perform well when he got in there. And then in regards to Sherrod, I mean, I think it'd be crazy to say that when you have injuries like that it doesn't affect you to a certain degree mentally and physically. But Sherrod's worked really, really hard to get himself back. He has shown how important football is to him, that he could get hurt like he did against Georgia and then come back again and still be playing, at somewhat a high level. And Mo and Brad started the other night because they had earned it. It wasn't necessarily a knock on Sherrod. They had earned it and had a good preseason camp. But, Sherrod is a guy that we have a lot of confidence in, and expect him, as we go through this season to have a really productive year for us.
Shane, a couple for you. Not to give away state secrets, but at that staff special teams meeting, are there weeks when after watching film you say, you know what, we think we can get a block or 2 here, or we think it's good, maybe for this fake, we can run this fake and try and do that? Are there some weeks, did it feel like that last week? And also, are you going to have to call Kerry Tharp at Darlington to see if you can drive the pace car?
Yeah, I saw that. Don got to, and I didn't, right? The problem is I can't go during the season, and then the spring race is Mother's Day. And I'm going to have a hard time with Emily saying we're going to Darlington for the race because I'm driving the pace car today, but it's Mother's Day. She would let me, but I just feel bad. You kind of got to tread lightly on that, and I haven't gotten to the point where I feel like I can make that call. And Kerry's been great. He's invited me to come over there the last 2 springs. He hasn't made the invite yet for the pace car, so I'm waiting on that one, Kerry. But he did invite me to come to the race. I think this past year, I want to say we were getting ready to go to Phoenix for an event, and I couldn't. And then the year before was Mother's Day. So hopefully soon, and I do want to get to Darlington. That's the one. I've been to a bunch of racetracks for NASCAR races. Believe it or not, I've never been to Darlington, so I do want to go. And then as far as those meetings, I'd say every single week we are looking at ways to steal a possession, whether it be fakes or whatever it may be. There's certainly some weeks, or block punts, whatever. There's certainly some weeks that you feel better about it than other weeks. But we always want to have the ability, and a lot of that is depending on how the game is going, but we always want to have the ability in all phases of special teams to be the aggressor, and attack, whether we're the ones kicking or whether we're the ones returning or trying to block. But certainly there's some weeks where you feel better about it, and this was a week that, with our looking back at last week, we felt like with Georgia State in regards to the field goal specifically, and then the the block punts, felt like pump pressure wise that we had an opportunity, if we just played with good technique, to potentially make something happen in that phase, whether it be in the return game or the block game. And I'm proud too, because we had some good returns. When you're a better rush team, that makes you better as a return team, because people are worried about getting punts blocked. So they either got to keep extra people in protection, or they really got to stay in longer in order to protect, which therefore makes it better for now you to return that punt, because we talk about our players, it's really the longest play in football. If you think about it, it takes from snap to punter 2 seconds to get the ball off. If the punter's any good, it's going to be in the air 4 or 5 seconds. So right now you're talking 7 seconds before the returner even catches the ball, and then however long it takes. So, I mean, you're talking about a play that's anywhere from 12 to 15 seconds. And the more that teams are worried about protecting, that makes it easier on Josh Van and our returners back there because there's not as many people down there, and you can get some returns going. That's why my dad was so good on special teams, because they were so good at blocking. People were worried about that, and next thing you know, they were turning them for touchdowns. And then you're trying to get more people out in coverage to keep them from returning them for touchdowns, and now you're blocking punts again. So that's what we want to be at all times. Sorry, I went on the special teams like spiel right there. But yes, we always feel good about it. We always want to be aggressors on special teams, and we felt good about in regards to the punt and then the field goal. That if Georgia State lined up the way we thought they would, and they don't always do that, but we were hoping they would, and they did, and we were able to take advantage of it on the field goal.
Shane, you may not want to say who is actually mimicking KJ Jefferson, but is there a way to actually mimic a guy who's 6'3", 240 or whatever he is?
There's not. To be that big, but to be able to people just bounce off of him back there, and the way that he's able to, in the run game, run the football like he does, but then also in the passing game to be able to sit back there and take hits and throw the ball downfield, or to have people bounce off of him. He's able to scramble, but he keeps his eyes downfield and he's able to throw. No. I mean, we'd have to take, I don't know who, one of our defensive ends, and make him a quarterback. For us, it's just emphasizing 11 hats to the ball and gang tackling and getting people around him, and let's do a good job of understanding their schemes and being in the right place, being in the right gaps, and then rally to them, because it's going to take all 11 to rally to that ball to get him down, and all their guys, not just him. I mean, when you talk about the backs that are 220 plus pounds as well that can carry the football, it's a problem. I mean, the other day against Cincinnati scores to cut it to 7. Arkansas gets the ball back with 6.5 minutes left and runs out the clock. Like, Cincinnati doesn't get the ball back again. Arkansas just takes 6.5 minutes off the clock because Cincinnati couldn't get a stop. So we've got to do a great job this week, without a doubt.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Were you on the staff when y'all went to Arkansas and Darren McFadden went for like 340 yards? Sorry, I know that's not the most fun memory, but
yeah, thanks. No, I was. I think that was my first year, 2007. 2007, yeah. McFadden, Peyton Hillis, and that was Felix Jones. Yeah, I think they each ran for like 500 yards apiece. My favorite memory of that game is I'm coaching defense, and I was coaching defense and special teams. And I'm a young coach. It's my first year on the staff. I mean, I'm coaching defense, but I'm taking a back seat to the older coaches on that defensive staff. And I'll never forget, this was after they've gone up and down the field on us, and I don't want to name names, but the defensive coordinator's on the field, and he's talking to one of the coaches in the press box. This is like second quarter. Or no, actually, I think it's early first quarter, and we can't stop them. It's obvious. And the defensive coordinator is talking to one of the coaches in the box, and the coach in the box is like, hang on a second, just don't say anything. I'm up here drawing. And the coordinator's like, you're up here drawing? He's like, yeah, I'm putting together a plan here that we can do some stuff to try and stop them. And I'm like, oh, crap. Like, if we're up here drawing stuff up on paper right now in the middle of the first quarter, we're in for a long night. And we were. That was a long night in Fayetteville, and hopefully we play a lot better defensively than what we did that night. David remembers those nights. Or that night. Yeah, at least. I think they ran for like 700 as a team or something.
Yeah, Coach, going back to Jefferson, you mentioned, of course, his size makes it hard for him to bring down, but, of course, running scheme as a whole,
yeah.
Raheem Sanders back there. How much of that do you think is, just how difficult it is to bring those players down, and how much of it is the line play? Like, just kind of what makes that rushing attack so effective for them and maybe difficult to defend also?
Yeah, they do a great job. Did you have a question on that, or were you just – Yeah, unfortunately I do. So, sorry. You asked me, and it was like a mental, like, automatically, like, it takes me back to that night. That was a long night. But yeah, we that was tough. That was tough. But yes, I was on that staff. Thank you. And I think we went out there 2 years later. That was an afternoon game. I think we won in 9 out there. Maybe not. I don't know. They faked the field goal, or they faked the punt against us. I remember that over there on our sideline, and we got to stop. Their run scheme, no, they do a great job coaching, for one. Sam's an offensive line guy. You see that when you watch them play. They're big. They're physical. With their size up front, they're able to cover people up. You know, you watch that Cincinnati game, and I'm watching the end zone copy yesterday, and you know, the ball snapped, and you pause it after a second, and you can't like see any of the Cincinnati defensive linemen on tape because they're covered up by double teams. And then there's just gaps for the running back and the quarterback to run through. So they do a great job coaching technique and fundamentals, but then they do a great job schematically as well. The offensive staff, they use tempo, so you got to be able to handle that. They'll get in multiple formations. They've got motions. They've got, you know, ways to you've got to be disciplined with your eyes against these guys because they're big and physical, but now they're also going fast also. And you know, they'll be in empty and the quarterback's running it, or they'll be in a regular conventional set, and here comes motion and whatnot. They do a great job. I think their receivers do a fantastic job of blocking on the perimeter. You watch Jefferson's first run on Saturday for a touchdown, and it's either Landers or Hazelwood's over there on the sideline. I mean, just kicks the DB's butt, you know, for Cincinnati to allow Jefferson to get in the end zone. So they do a great job on the perimeter also. And then they just got, you know, they got weapons. They got the other quarterback, number 4, that's a world-class track guy, I think, that's a blazer when he comes in with his speed, and then he can throw it. They have different ways of getting him the ball. So they're just they're a real challenge, starting with their size, but they're well-coached, and then they're very multiple. You know, last week there wasn't a lot of formations that you were going to get from Georgia State. This week you're going to get a lot of formations and then a lot of stuff happening within those formations too.
I know how guys came in as recruits and all that stuff's largely irrelevant to you guys once they get here. But there are several guys who made plays Saturday night who were, you know, late ads or didn't have a ton of offers, like Amos, Gilbert Edmond, DQ.
Yeah.
What does that say about guys like that who come in and kind of earn their way a little bit more than maybe some people might think?
Yeah, I think a couple things. One, you go back to the process. I think it says that we're not a staff that's going to get caught up in who else is recruiting them or how many offers they have. I don't care. We don't care. You know, we watch the tape or have them in camp, and if we think they're good enough and have the ability to develop, we'll take them. So I want to commend like our coaching staff and the recruiting staff for being willing to offer those guys and recruit them because we believed in them. And then 2, it says a lot about them as well. Like, we want guys in this program that love to compete, guys that love football. And those guys do, a lot of them. And I think when you come in and maybe you don't have the stars or the rankings of other guys, you maybe have a little bit more of a chip on your shoulder or edge and kind of out to prove yourself. And you know, DQ and Nick, I mean, those guys, they love football. They love to compete. Gilbert is a guy that, you know, has sat behind some guys the first couple of years, and it's his time. Like, he needs to continue to elevate himself defensively and special teams. Rashad's a guy that, you know, proud of him. It would have been very easy. He goes through preseason practice, and he's not one of the top 2 running backs going into this season. Would have had some games last year where he didn't travel with us. He wasn't one of our 70 that we're able to take to SEC away games. Would have been easy to, you know, take his ball and pack up his stuff and go somewhere else, and he didn't. Like, he stayed here and continued to compete and has matured off the field and then put himself in a position to make plays on the field, special teams, and then more and more offensively as we go. So proud of those guys. Says a lot about them for sure.
Hey, Shane, have you seen a heightened sense of urgency from the guys since SEC play is starting this week? And then also, how confident are you in Nick that he'll be able to step up if RJ is unable to go at safety?
Yeah, I think automatically there's going to be a heightened sense of urgency. There better be. I mean, we're into SEC play here pretty quick, and going on the road against a nationally ranked opponent to open up SEC play, you better have that urgency for sure. So our guys know, and again, each and every week we talk about us, and it's about us, and try not to prepare differently for Arkansas than what we did Georgia State. And they're all, you know, other coaches use it, but it's true, just nameless, faceless opponents, and let's worry about us. But when you're going on the road in the SEC, it's different. Let's be real, and our guys know that, and the energy and spirit at practice this morning certainly reflected that. And then in regards to Nick, yeah, I have confidence. Torian and Clayton will do a great job, getting him ready. I mean, he stepped in the other night, and I want to say I was talking to Luke Day this morning about it. I want to say Nick played more snaps when you take his defensive snaps and special teams than any player on the team the other night. I mean, he was out there a bunch, and he did well. Now, just because it happened last week doesn't mean it's going to happen this week. And we've got to do a great job of getting him ready to go again and maybe even more of a prominent role. Arkansas has tape on him now. Georgia State really didn't know much about him. So Nick will be fine, all those guys. And it's not just Nick. There's a lot of guys that will be playing their first road game this week. There's a lot of guys that haven't been in a stadium like this, that have been in college football for a while. Juice Wells, I think Juice Wells played in a stadium like he's going to play in Saturday when he was at James Madison. So we got to do a great job of, worrying about what we can control, preparing ourselves, and at the end of the day, realize it's about us.
You've had a couple of guys, defending that O-line on social media the last couple of days. We had a couple of guys come in here today say today was the best practice that they've had all season so far. Where is the atmosphere and the morale of the locker room right now coming into week 2?
As high as it's been, sky high. I mean, were there parts Saturday night that didn't look great? Sure. I think there's a lot of teams across the country that can say that, but at the end of the day, we didn't play well. We didn't play well overall in a lot of areas, in my opinion, and we still beat a team that's going to compete for the championship in their conference by 3 touchdowns, and the game was in control the entire fourth quarter. So a lot to correct on. Nobody's walking around patting ourselves on the back about Saturday night, but we know what the issues are. We know the group of guys that we have in that locker room, and there's no issues with anything besides getting ready to play or getting ready to go play Arkansas and be the very best we can be. So now our guys are excited, and I don't worry about them. Whatever the noise is out there, it is what it is. But that's just part of, you're either every Saturday you're judged on 12 Saturdays, and we certainly need to be better this Saturday than what we were last. Thank you, guys. Have a good week. Thank y'all.